Good evening, and thank you for joining us for CIT's Open Fortnight. This is the 6th of 22 live events scheduled to take place over the next 2 weeks. My name is Dan Collins, and I'm the Academic Administration and Student Affairs Manager at CIT, or MTU. This evening, I'm joined in studio by my colleague, Deirdre Creedon, who's our Access Officer, and later, my colleague Aoife Kelleher, Societies Officer, will join us. I'm also delighted to welcome and to introduce those who have joined us remotely, my colleagues this evening. Tressa Morgan, our Careers Officer, Will Carey, our Student Engagement Officer, Carmel Kelleher, our Fees Officer, and after Aoife, we'll have Norma Buckley, our Sports Officer, Deirdre Falvey, our Accommodation Officer, and we'll close this evening by introducing Aisling O'Mahony, who's our Student Union President. In warmly welcoming each and every one of you this evening, I'd like to remind you that if you have any question, please do join us via Zoom link at www.cit.ie/CAO or by emailing cao@cit.ie. To begin this evening and to get the ball rolling, I would like to introduce the Access Officer at the Cork Institute of Technology, Deirdre Creedon. Our Access Office is one of the most vibrant in higher education, and the office critically addresses the needs of students who avail of the many services offered by Access. And so, Deirdre, I'm going to hand over to you, but maybe you might lead us off this evening by telling us a little bit. Who are the Access Office and what do you do?
Thank you, Dan. Dan, we're an office that provides support to a number of different student cohorts that are underrepresented in higher education. The groups that we work with mainly are students with disabilities, mature students, students who experience socioeconomic disadvantage, and ethnic minority groups. So for each one of those groups, we have a range of support programs at pre-entry stage, at entry stage, and at post-entry stage. So we have a lot of different supports running to, I suppose, facilitate access and allow for greater retention of those groups within the college.
Very good. And also, you have a number of schemes, Deirdre, I know, in place to support students. And do you want to just introduce them very, very briefly, those schemes that you have at the Institute?
Okay. The schemes you're referring to, I suppose, there are two main schemes that we operate. They're national schemes. They're the HERE scheme and the DARE scheme. The HERE scheme is the higher education access route, and the DARE scheme is the disability access route to education. Maybe if I speak about the HERE scheme in the first instance.
That'd be great, thank you.
The HERE scheme is for school leavers under the age of 23 who find that they're within that socioeconomic disadvantage grouping. I suppose there are a number of different eligibility criteria that apply for students who wish to be considered as a HERE student. And there are many benefits to, I suppose, being identified as a HERE student. The main benefit to being a HERE student is that if you're eligible, if you are applying for a particular programme in CIT and you fall short of the points that are identified at round 1, you may be considered for a place on that programme on reduced points. So say, for example, if a programme, a first-year programme was in round 1, 390 points, and the student got 380 points, and the student was HERE eligible, then we could consider that student for a place on one of the reserved places within that programme. I suppose to be eligible for a HEAR, to be a HEAR student, there are a number of different criteria that you have to meet, and a number of different combinations of different criteria that you have to meet. The main one would be family income. And after that, a number of different criteria applies. For example, if the student has a medical card, if the student is in a deaf school, if the family is dependent on social welfare payment, those type of things. So if somebody watching here tonight feels that they might be eligible for that, I would strongly advise them to look at the website accesscollege.ie, which has all the information relating to the HEAR programme. I might mention about the DARE programme now. It's a similar programme in that it also, for DARE eligible students, they're able to apply for or to be considered for places on reduced points if needed. And to qualify for those, the student needs to be considered to have a physical disability, maybe a significant ongoing illness, a specific learning difference, and whatever the nature of the disability, if it has had an impact on their educational experience at second level, they may be eligible to apply for the DARE programme. Both routes have to operate through the CAO. So all students have to complete the CAO by the 1st of February, indicate that they wish to be considered for either HEAR, DARE or both by the 1st of March, and then submit the documentation by the 15th of March, which is a Monday. And I suppose just to really encourage anybody who is applying for this to get the applications or the supporting documentation in as early as possible, not to leave it to last minute, and I suppose to start gathering the supporting documentation as early as possible in the process, so that they're just not caught with that timeline. Yeah,
and I can hear, and you've given a lot of detail there, Deirdre, and you might tell us before we finish in the minute with you, maybe where people could access all of that information as well. Yeah. Deirdre, I just have somebody with a question there regarding about what supports do the Access Service, and in particular, it was Cork Institute of Technology and the MTU for our prospective candidates. What do they offer mature students, people who will come in under that category?
Yeah, we, as I mentioned, we do support mature students, and we strongly encourage applications for mature students every year. And I suppose annually we would take in hundreds of mature students on all programmes of study across the campus, or across the campuses. And I suppose when you're talking about a mature student, to qualify as a mature applicant, all you have to be is over the age of 23 by the 1st of January on the year of entry. So if you satisfy that criteria, you may be considered as a non-standard applicant or as a mature student. Again, the process is through the CAO. And I suppose as a mature applicant, you don't have to apply with a leaving cert. And you don't have to meet the points requirement. You can be considered on the basis of your past educational experience or academic achievements, or indeed your work experience, or whatever your motivation for doing the programme. So you will be asked to complete a personal statement as part of that application. Again, as I said, it's through the CAO, so information is available on the website as to maybe key pointers in writing that mature student personal statement. So I'd advise people to look at that.
Okay, thank you. And of course, we have discovered as an institute that in welcoming mature students, they really do enhance actually the working of the college, but I think even within the academic departments themselves, we're delighted to welcome them as well as all students. And Deirdre, I have another question somebody's put to me there is, particularly as a mature student, but also as a HEAR and DARE student, what financial, personal and academic supports? I know I could keep you here all evening, but maybe just very quickly, could you just touch on what supports we could offer students, maybe from a financial point of view, as well as personal and academic?
Okay, so from a financial point of view, I suppose for the HEAR students in the first instance, anyone who is HEAR eligible and is made and accepted an offer of a programme in CIT or MTU, they will be offered a range of different support programmes. They will be offered a financial bursary. They'll also be offered academic support and personal one-to-one support, where they'll meet with our coordinators regularly just to kind of see how they're getting on and if there's any issues that present for them. In relation to the DARE students, they will also be eligible to draw down funding to allow them to get the supports in place. So there are great merits to being involved, or to being identified as a HEAR and a DARE student. But they're not limited to just HEAR and DARE students. There are other financial supports available for students outside of those categories of students. We have the Student Assistance Fund, for example, that's open to all full-time and part-time students to make applications for financial support through that.
And Deirdre, could I ask you a little bit about the Student Assistance Fund? Because it's a question we get every year from students. I mean, again, how does one qualify for the Student Assistance Fund?
Okay. In making an application, you have to be a CIT or MTU student in the first instance. It's an online application available through our website, and you fill up the application and submit supporting documentation based on your income or your expenditure, and it's assessed by a team of assessors, and an outcome is determined, and the student is informed whether they're successful or not. So every year we would approve or we would support up to about 500 students through that scheme every year, and support can be given for things like childcare, class materials, rent, travel, depending on what the need, the financial need is. So it's a great source of financial support for students who are maybe also getting SUSI, the National Grants Scheme, but you know, for those students who are finding it difficult to make ends meet, it's a good source of financial support.
Very good. And Deirdre, I'm sorry, the time is nearly out on us, but you've shared a lot of information. Thank you for that. Where could people who are viewing this evening, where could they access this information? Do you have a place where this is easily accessible?
Absolutely. For the HEAR and DARE programs, the best website to consult with is accesscollege.ie. All of the information is on that website. The step-by-step guide to completing the CAO for those programs is on that website, so it's really excellent. I would encourage them.
Accesscollege.ie.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then for any specific questions relating to the sports that we would have, it's HEAR@cit.ie or DARE@cit.ie or maturestudent@cit.ie.
Okay. And Deirdre, finally this evening, I think they are events. Are they for HEAR and DARE students?
There are. My disability colleagues are organising a DARE information session on the 26th of November and a repeat session on the 8th of December. So if anyone is interested in or considering making a DARE application, I would strongly advise them to attend one of those sessions. You can book in online on the CIT website under the schedule, and the booking link is there. For the HEAR information, we will be having, there will be national HEAR and DARE clinics happening on the 9th of January in the morning, and all of the information will be on the accesscollege.ie website.
Okay, Deirdre, thank you very much. And as I say, Deirdre and all our colleagues, there's about 14 or 15 Deirdre in the office. They're a great crew, and absolutely pre-entry, as Deirdre said, entry, and in post-entry. There's great support there. So I'd encourage anybody who's tuned in to this presentation and listening to us to please once again to go onto our Access site in CIT and to get that information, and indeed to avail of the support, and that's something we very much appreciate. So Deirdre, thank you very much, and my best wishes to you and your crew for the rest of this year ahead.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much, Deirdre. So we're moving on. I'd like to introduce now our Careers Officer at the Cork Institute of Technology, and I'll say the MTU because we're getting used to that, Trasa Morgan. And Trasa also leads a very vibrant team of guidance counsellors at the Institute itself. So good evening, Trasa, and thank you for joining us. And maybe, Trasa, you might start off, if you don't mind, just tell us overall, what is it that you do at the Career Service in CIT? I think Trasa might just be adjusting her volume there. Don't worry about it, Trasta. Do you know what I might do, Trasta? I might move on to one of our other colleagues and we'll come back to you there, Trasta, in a few minutes, you know. This is when we're going live. This will also happen. So we'll come back to you in a few minutes, Trasta. And I might move on to our Student Engagement Officer, Will Carey, to maybe... Hi, Will. Good evening to you.
Hi, Dan.
And the Student Engagement Office focus on students enhancing, I won't take away all your words here now, Will, but enhancing their academic and professional development opportunities. And opportunities, and Will talk to us a little bit about that, exist from induction through to graduation, really, and everything in between. They include the Good Start Initiative, Academic Success Coaching, Academic Learning Centre, Reach Mentoring, all these programs for our students. So, Will, good to see you this evening. You might tell us a little bit about what you do, Dale, and the services you offer at the office.
Yeah, sure, Dan. So the office is called Student Engagement Office, but it's also known as Onshore. Now, as you can tell, I'm not a native of Ireland, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. But my Onshore is something that I learned when I moved to Ireland from Manchester, actually, a couple of years ago. And I came to come and work at CIT. Actually, I chose to come to CIT because of the work and how well recognised Onshore is in Europe for its work. And my understanding of Onshore is that it means here, or be present. And so I'm going to say a bit about that in a moment, because our work really is about working together with students. It's about encouraging CIT students to engage, as you said, in some of those academic and professional development opportunities throughout their studies. And if we think about the idea of Onshore, the idea of being present, it's about being present physically and mentally and emotionally. And what do we know that engaged students do? And how can we, working with colleagues across all the departments across the college, how can we provide opportunities for these opportunities of engagement? What do we know? We know that students turn up, maybe that's virtually or face-to-face at the moment. We know that they bring their best game to college study. We know that they seek guidance when they need it. And we know that they work with us. When I say us, I mean students and staff together to reach their potential. So if Onshore is about being present, how or what does this look like? And I just want to share 3 really small insights about our work. And our work is open to anyone coming to study here at CIT or MTU, as you say, Dan. So the first one is the Good Start programme. And this is right at the very start. It's a programme run by students. It's designed by students and staff. And it's one of those things where people can ask all those small questions, but they can ask them of current students. A student who's been there, who's done it before, just a year or so earlier. And it's a full induction programme, actually. It's run around 4 different themes. It's about finding your feet, about belonging and creating a sense of connection. It's about getting down to work, is week 3. And then week 4 is about striking a balance. But you might say, well, why these topics? Well, the topics are the same fairly much each year because they're not set by staff, but they're set by our student Good Start ambassadors. They're the ones, 25 of them this year, actually. And they make sure that every week is tailored to the needs of incoming students. There's also the second sort of an insight to share with you is about academic success coaching. And I wonder how many of you who are watching have maybe your family have experienced or had a chance to work with a coach. Maybe that's in sport or in music, or perhaps you've heard about them through business or a work setting. Well, CIT employs a team of trained and accredited coaches who are here for you as incoming students. They are there to help you plan out your goals. They'll encourage you through, maybe you're going to arrange a get-together with them, maybe online or face-to-face at times when we're able to do that, maybe through Zoom or on the phone. And they'll ask you questions about how college is going for you. Some that students come and talk to us about are about college and life balance. Maybe it's getting some more motivation or fitting in with my classmates. Maybe it's about developing different study techniques or planning or time management, or just working together in a group with other students on my programme. The important thing with coaching is that you decide what you want to bring to a session. And then the final little insight is about our academic learning centre. And this is a space where it's an opportunity for you to sort of really continue to strive for the best that you can be in the subjects. Maybe particularly some of those ones that you're finding that you want to improve in, or that you're finding a bit challenging. But importantly, it's open to you wherever you are in your learning. So it might be something, a subject that you're really struggling with, and you just need that extra bit of support. Or it might be the subject where you're aiming right for the very top, and you want to turn that mark from a 90% into 100%. Well, actually, it's there for anybody. Most of the common subjects studied at CIT are covered. And the subject, actually, the lecturers who lecture you are there during specific hours to discuss the questions that you got. They can be one-to-one or they can be in groups. But importantly, the chance to work with your lecturers in a different way. It's not the lecturer standing at the front teaching all the time, but it's a dialogue, it's a conversation on the questions that are important to you. A way of describing it might be like, it's a bit like free grinds in a way. It's a space to really come and get that extra support to give you and help you achieve your goals. And I suppose it wouldn't be fair not to say how have we adapted to this new learning environment that we found ourselves in over the last few months. Everything that we've spoken about earlier has been online. So we can run our coaching online, our academic learning centre. Actually, we've got, even in some places, we've got higher attendance with people being able to just drop in whenever they feel like it to the learning centre. But there's one that we've done that's brand new this year, and it's been a response to COVID. And as far as we know, it's the first of its kind in Ireland, and it's called Reach. And you mentioned it a minute ago. And it's an academic mentoring programme, and it's about connecting every incoming student and also second year students with a member of academic staff who takes an individual interest in them. And it's not like student advisors or academic advisors that you might see in other places, but these are staff who teach on the programme, who know the programme, and can help you as an incoming student think, how am I going to get the most from my time on the subject that I've come to study? And it started this semester. We have had some fantastic conversations with our academic mentors, and they've been sharing with us some of the conversations that they've had with their first year students, and it's been a real privilege to hear how some of those relationships have been developing over the last few weeks.
Great, Will, and thank you very much for that. And I know that it's been a great success. And one of the questions, actually, Will, that I've got this evening is about the Academic Learning Centre. So that's available to all students, so they can just literally turn up at the centre. I'm looking at prospective candidates for next year. Hopefully, we'll all be back on campus.
Yeah.
And so they just turn up at the centre. But could you just give me an idea very quickly? Somebody asked the range of subjects that you cover in that centre.
Absolutely. Okay. So one of our biggest subjects that we cover is maths and statistics, or maybe thinking about numerical skills, which are, they're so important in everyday life, aren't they? All of those different skills, and there's a space for that. There's actually an online course that students can jump into as well. It's called on Canvas. It's a module on Canvas, which is our virtual learning environment. Loads of online resources there for people to log into, but also we cover things like accountancy, economics, all sorts of economics, macro and microeconomics, mechanics and thermofluids, physics, chemistry, computing, programming, networking. And one of the ones that's really taken off this year is academic writing or writing skills. How do we start to think about putting that report together for a lab? How do we think about writing the essay that we've been set? And again, someone who can offer one-to-one support for that.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much. We could sit and listen to you all night, but unfortunately,
That's all right.
we've only so much time to move on. So just to thank you very much this evening, Will, to wish you and your colleagues the very best, but just to say as well, actually, that the moment that prospective candidates arrive on campus, the very, very first day, they actually bump into the Good Start ambassador. So they meet your colleagues and they're able to meet them and to interact with them as well, which is a fantastic. So they journey with them, as you said, the whole way right throughout their academic journey.
The whole way through. And Dan, just as a little plug, maybe if people are interested as to what our current Good Start ambassadors have been saying, or maybe some of the messages that they've been sharing about what it's like to be studying at CIT at this really different time, people might find it interesting to look at Instagram feed, and they can look at CIT Good Start. And there's actually, rather than me telling you what it's like, we've got students who've recorded themselves, they've been having chats with each other, they've actually been having chats with people who are on the stage, they've having a chat with Aoife and with our academic success coaches as well. So at CIT Good Start on Instagram, and there's loads of information there about what it's like getting started and getting excited about starting at college.
Well done. Well, thank you very much. My best wishes to you and to your colleagues indeed for the rest of the academic year. And as I say to all of you tuned in tonight, our programme there, our student engagement office run a myriad of programmes, and I'd encourage any prospective candidate who comes on campus to avail of them. So thank you very much again, Will. And I think we have Trasa back to us again this evening. So Trasa, good evening to you. And Trasa, maybe to begin, and good to see you, could you just tell us a little bit about the career service at CIT, or MTU?
Thanks very much, Dan. It's great to be back again. Everybody can hear me okay?
We can indeed.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. So the Career Service is a free and confidential service to any student full-time who is registered with CIT MTU. We also support students or graduates who finish their education and they can come back to us for 1 year after leaving. So we support them through that transition out of CIT as well. We also work with springboard students and apprentice students when they're on campus. So a lot of what we do is facilitating personal, professional and career development for students in terms of skills development, I suppose the career planning process, understanding self-assessment, options that are out there for somebody, what will come out of your degree, how you can enhance your skills through that degree and while in CIT, and also then the very practical tools like your LinkedIn profile, your CV, your interview preparation and practice. And then the ultimate job hunting process or taking those next steps maybe into further education or other options that you'd like to consider after finishing your time in CIT. So we run a number of programs. Oh, sorry,
No, please carry on. No, thank you.
So a couple of programs. Thank you. A couple of the programs that we do run are the Careers Ambassador program, the CIT Joint Mentorship program, the Mature Student Career Development program, and the DSS or Career Development program as well. So we do engage on a variety of levels with colleagues in CIT. So for example, having heard Deirdre earlier with the Access Office, we engage with the Mature Student Officer and also the Disability Support Officer to develop the Career Development Programme for both the mature cohort and those registered with DSS. And as well as this, we also work with the Alumni Office to run the Mentorship Programme, which is pairing students with people in industry, so often alumni or friends of the institute. And that is to support and mentor students during a year in college. And you can apply for that program a number of times. And then our Careers Ambassador program is, we started that this year. It's gone so well and it's all online, but we feel that we really know the students already. We have 13 Careers Ambassadors and they act as the voice for the students and also a voice for us out into the college.
Thank you very much, Tracy. You're definitely kept very, very busy, and I was delighted to be at the launch of the alumni programme along with the Career Service last week, and it was great to see that. Actually, I have a great question that came in here from one of our viewers, so I'm going to put it to Tracy, and what she wants to know is, what 3 top tips does the Career Service have for students who who are thinking about choosing a third level course? Top three tips. Three tips.
Okay, that's a great question. And we really concentrate on this when we see students that maybe start their course and find that they've possibly picked the wrong avenue for themselves, and then we work with them to reorientate. But our three top tips would be: look at yourself first. So there's a number of self-assessment tools to understand what are my skills, how do I learn, and what am I interested in? So a very quick one to start with is look at your subjects in school and see, or maybe in further education, that you might have engaged in, and see what areas did you really look like and what did you excel at. There are various tools on websites like careersportal.ie to do self-assessments or Qualifax. And it's really important to get a sense of who am I and what do I like to do. The next step, and this is hugely important, this is the bulk of your effort, would be really thoroughly research the course. So when you're looking at the course, you're going to read any information that you can about the course of interest, but really important, look at the modules that you will study from first year right through to third or fourth year of the program, depending on the length of the course you're choosing. And looking at each module, there's excellent descriptors on the CIT website for each module, and as well how these modules are assessed. And that can help you to understand, will I perform well at this? Is it a lot of project work, or is there exam work, or is there a balance? And how do I perform and learn in those terms? And it's also very important as you're going along in your research for the modules to see, do they make sense to me? Or do I need to have follow-up questions and get follow-up information and answers from the academic staff that are linked to the queries on the website? And also using the Open Fortnight platform to get some specific queries answered is really vital. And then the final tip is to have a look at some career information. You don't have to delve deeply into this side, but it's to just get a sense of, if I am picking a course such as marketing or engineering or music or nautical science, where will that take me and what kind of job will I do? It's to get a sense of where you go next, but really the most important parts are understand yourself first and then really thoroughly research the course, not just look at first year modules, look at the modules throughout the program and ask questions if you don't understand anything.
That's great, Trace, and thank you very much for that. And I said there's such a variety of courses, and I'm delighted to online we have a good number actually, of guidance counsellors who are joining us this evening for this, so we reach out to them as well. I'm going to ask you one final question, Trace. I'm just conscious of time, but I have another question that came in there, and just checking very quickly. How does the career service at CIT, or what will be the MTU, support a first-year student? So I might ask you to keep it short, but what does the guidance service, career service, do for a first-year student?
Okay, thank you, Jan. Very quickly, careers works both in class and one-to-one with first-year students. So on a one-to-one basis, we'd see students that want some support for developing a part-time CV. Others might want to talk about settling into college and the course, making sure it's the right thing for them and where it's going to take them. Or they might ask us about what's the process for choosing electives in terms of their future career. And then on a class basis, only today and over the last number of weeks, we've been doing class sessions with students around communication skills and communications workshops. So doing experiential workshops for you. And that's to let you see what the career service does, as well as start developing your communication skills. So it's one-to-one as well as group work within class.
Very good, Trace. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry now that I'm going to cut you short there, but really appreciate that. And to anybody and to all of you tuned in, I would advise you that if you do come on campus next September onto the MTU campus, to avail of the services offered by our guidance service. They're a great crew, a great staff, so just pop in to see them, make an appointment, and they'll be delighted to journey with you. So Trace, my best wishes to you and indeed to all of your colleagues. I'm moving on now to my other colleague, another colleague who's actually still sitting in our office this evening in CIT. I'm looking at her there, Carmel Kelleher. Carmel is kept busy all year round, where she and her colleagues are at the forefront of, I would say, Carmel, a very busy and a very demanding office. So Carmel, thank you for joining us, and I'll hand over to you just to take us through, I think, a presentation there this evening.
Okay, so I've gone for a slightly different format. I'm just conscious that can you see the screen? Is that showing up on?
Well, I'm certainly looking at a screen, but I'm not sure if I'm looking at what I should be looking at, Carmel.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I know Carmel was hoping. Yes, Carmel, we can see it. Student fees and grant information.
Okay.
That's great,
Great
Carmel.
stuff. I just took a slightly different format because I'm aware that a lot of students are tuning in tonight, and I do know this impacts heavily on the parents financially. So they can always ask the parents to have a read or look through this video later on, and also for the guidance counsellors as well, for other students that, you know, there's a lot of rules to the fees, and it gets a bit complicated. So I just thought I'd put together a few slides to go through. So there's 3 elements to the EU third level fees. There's our student contribution fee, which is 3,000 per annum. And that's the fee set by the government for all third level students in all colleges. In CIT, there's a students' union levy of €7 per annum. And then there are the tuition fees. Now, these depend on the level of course you're doing. So there's level 6, a higher cert, level 7, an ordinary degree, and level 8. Now, for the majority of students, they don't need to worry about the tuition fees because these are funded by the government for each year of your course. So students really, their fees consist of the student contribution fee plus the USI levy. The reason I mentioned the tuition fees is that they will be applied to some students if students have been to college previously. You know, they've already done maybe a year of a course in another college and they want to transfer to CIT, that they could be eligible for a year of the tuition fees. Also, like, to be eligible for the tuition fees, students must be attending full-time, they must be EU citizens, and they must be resident in the EU for 3 out of 5 years prior to starting their course. And they must also be progressing in their education. So, for instance, if somebody already, you know, if they wanted to return to college and they already had a level 8 degree, then they would be liable for those tuition fees as well as the student contribution. Okay. So the residency is very important. So if they read EU nationals and they have not been resident in the EU for 3 out of 5 years prior to starting their course, if they have a combined 5 years of primary and post-primary education in the EU, they will be eligible for the EU rate of fees, which is the student contribution and the tuition fees, plus the €7 USI levy. Non-EU students, this won't affect many students tuning in tonight, but the residency, again, if for non-EU nationals who do not have the residency requirement in the EU of 3 out of 5 years before starting the course, they would be liable for the non-EU rate of fee. So, and the non-EU fees are 12,000 per annum, and students can apply to our international office for a scholarship of up to 25%, and that would reduce the fees to 9,000. But as I say, it won't impact on many of the students. Most of the students would be, you know, have the requirements, or they would have the 3 out of 5 years residency before starting their course. So we may have some students who are non-EU citizens and they have been resident here for 3 out of 5 years. So they wouldn't have the Irish passport in some cases. So we would need to see their stamp 4 visa, proof of residency for 3 out of 5 years, and then the letter from the Minister of Justice as well. And we also may have some asylum seekers and refugees hoping to start college in September. And there's also some sanctuary scholarships, or there's a Department of Education pilot scheme, which they may be eligible to apply for. So I've included the links there on which they can access the information and see if they're eligible for those schemes. Okay, so as I said before, for the majority of students, you're looking at the fees of 3,000 per annum plus the €7 Students' Union levy, and the tuition fees are funded by the HEA. So for a lot of students, you can apply to SUSI for a grant, and this could cover your full student contribution fee for the year. So it may cover the full 3,000, or it may just cover 50% of the student contribution. The higher or the lower the income, the more of a grant you get. And some students may get their full fee covered, and they also might get a maintenance grant, which is paid directly into their account every month by SUSI. And this can be used towards expenses of going to college, travel, accommodation, books, whatever the student wants to spend it on. So it's a maintenance grant that's paid directly into the student's account each month. The rates vary then, so if you're over 45 kilometres from the college, you get a higher rate of maintenance due to the distance and travel costs. So SUSI, S-U-S-I, stands for Student Universal Support Ireland, and they're the central awarding body for grants for all third-level colleges. So primarily, the application will be based on income. So for students who are starting college next September, applications will be based on the household income from January to December 2020. So I'd advise you to check the income limits on the SUSI website. Students must be full-time on an approved course. Other criteria, again, residency, nationality, and previous academic history. So if a student already has maybe an honours degree, that might exclude them from getting the grant, even if they hadn't a grant, when they did their previous qualification. So it's important to just check all the criteria before you submit the application. So these are just some tips when applying for the grant. It's all done online. So you log on to the SUSI website. There's an eligibility reckoner, and you can put in there's various questions that they'll ask you, and depending on the answer that you give, they'll be able to tell you whether you should proceed with your application and submit the details online. It's very important to remember that the application scheme opens in early April. So students should submit the applications as soon as possible. You don't need to know what course you're doing or what college you're going in order to submit an application to SUSI. And that process will be, the last stage of the procedure. So SUSI will assess the applications in the order that they receive them. So obviously, the sooner you apply, the better. I think in previous years, they could get 10,000 applications on the day they actually open the scheme. So, and they get over 100,000 applications every year. So the sooner you apply, the better. Even if you're not sure whether you're going to go to college or not, and you think you might be, submit the application. If you change your mind, you can always just send them a quick email saying, just cancel my application, and that's the end of it. There's no issue. I would advise students to keep copies of all the documents that you send to SUSI, just in case anything goes missing, or trying to get a replacement document again can be difficult if you are trying to get it from a government department or anything. It can take a couple of weeks, so make sure and keep documents of everything that you're submitting, or copies. Tick the CAO box when you're completing your CAO application. Tick the box that allows SUSI access to your course choices. So SUSI can see what courses you pick in the CAO, and that'll help then, like, what the end process is that each college has to confirm that the student is registered on a particular course. So the files go out depending on your CAO choices. Apply using the student's PPS number. I know the parents are probably filling out a lot of these forms. So it's the student's PPS number, not the parent's PPS number, that goes on the application. Have the documentation ready. You need documentation to back up any income that you submit on the application. Self-employed, I would, give your accountant the heads up that you're applying for the grant, so that they have the documents ready to submit when requested. You also have a certain deadline by which to submit the documents, and failure to do so will result in cancellation of your application. So if there is a delay which is beyond your control, make sure and email Susie's support@susie.ie to advise them that what the delay is, and they will give you an extension. Just be aware as well, like if there is a second child in the family attending college, that the income threshold increases by 4,830. So it's important to note that. And if there's a third child going to college, it increases again by another 4,830 at the higher end of the scale. You can also follow the progress of your application through the online tracker. And when you if you're awarded a grant, you will get a letter in the post from Susie. Make sure and read it. Make sure that the college on it and the course that you're doing are correct. And also check that the amount of grant, if they're only funding 50% of your fees, then you would be liable for the remaining 50%. So it's important. Some people just read the letter and are delighted they're awarded a grant, and they don't check the rest of the details. So if the college and the course are wrong on the letter, you need to go in and complete an online course change notification form. So this will ensure that you're being sent on the correct file to the correct college, so that they can actually verify your registration. And this speeds up the process. So the college can update your student account with the amount of fees that Susie are paying, and also you can start getting paid your maintenance grant as well if you're entitled to that additional funding. So if your grant is refused and you think your application has been assessed incorrectly, you do have the right to appeal within 30 days. So make sure, and if there is an issue and that you definitely think you're entitled to it, follow up and do submit the appeal. If you have the right to a second appeal, and then the third appeal, goes to the Department of Education. And I have seen cases where it's been overturned in the third appeal. So sometimes it is worth sticking and chasing it up, and because it's a lot of money. It could be the difference between getting 3,000 in fees covered for the year or getting nothing. So
that's great, Carmel. That's great, Carmel. I'm sorry, we're just a little bit caught in time here. So just to say, look, this information I'm sure will be available through our marketing website, and they'll make it available as well, Carmel. Just to say thank you very much, Carmel. I think what you're saying, one of the big things there is that really you're encouraging any applicant apply early, make sure that you have all the details in line, and also, as you say, to focus very much that you have the documentation, the correct documentation. Carmel, thank you, and indeed thank you to all your colleagues for the work that you do, and really for putting that presentation together, and for sharing that with us this evening. So thank you very much, Carmel, and we wish you the best for the rest of the academic year. I'm moving on now. Before I go to my colleague here in the studio with me, I'm moving on to Deirdre Falvey. Deirdre is our accommodation officer at CIT. So good evening, Deirdre. And you might just give us a brief outline, Deirdre. What does the accommodation office do, and why is accommodation so important for students?
Thanks, Dan. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Lovely to be here and to see you all in these strange times. So I suppose my aim really as accommodation officer is to support students and their families to the best of our ability in CIT, to find the best accommodation that we can, that's comfortable, safe and secure for them, and that they'll be really happy in, and that it'll be a home away from home. So I suppose there's 3 different types of accommodation available to students. This was the most popular one for all students we found over the last few years is the purpose-built student accommodation, which would be our student apartments. Whilst these aren't owned by CIT, we have a really, really good amount that are very close to the college, and we have a very good relationship built with these purpose-built accommodations, and they're very, very good for the students, and they're very happy there. They go on sale usually around early March of the academic year. So for September 2021, they go on sale in this coming March after Christmas. And I would recommend that parents and students would go about this accommodation early in the academic year. Find out the date they're going on sale and be ready. It's a bit like Ticketmaster, to be honest, Dan. In the morning, it's a bit of a rush to get the right accommodation if it's the one they really want, with their friends and with their families. So I would say to look into this type of accommodation early and be prepared. And we can email us anytime. We're always available, and we're only at the end of a phone or an email. So the cost of these apartments could really be anything from $4,500 per annum, which would be for the 9 months of the academic year, or they could be anything up to kind of $6,000 to $7,000, depending on the room that the students are going for. Whether they're en suite or whether they're a single standard room. So there's a lot of different options available. So that's why it's very important to make sure that you do your homework and you have a look beforehand. So that's the first type. The second one would be our shared housing, which is living with other students in a house. They wouldn't be living with the owners, so they have their bit of freedom. They pay their rent usually monthly or weekly. And this is also very, very good accommodation for students. And it's usually the type of accommodation that our 3rd or 4th years would be interested in, that they have a little bit more freedom and they don't feel like they're in a kind of a dorm style accommodation, if you know what I mean. And then our third one would be our digs, which is our living with an owner occupier. So this one would be very popular, I suppose, for our first year students. Parents like the idea that there's a bit of safety. They feel that it's a little bit of a home away from home, especially if they're a young student, 17, 18. It seems to work out very, very well. And we have a really, really good list, which is now nearly up to 400 people in the Cork area and even out in the suburbs for other campuses as well, in the city centre and in the Skiddy. So we have a very, very good list there, and we're very proud of that because we worked very hard to make sure that we have a really good list for our students. I suppose the houses, the shared houses and the digs, they really don't go, I really wouldn't look at those options for booking for September until May or June of that year, because it's important for students to realise the existing students have to leave. Then we need to know what's available before we can look at for September 2021. So again, parents can contact us anytime, through our website or through the accommodation at cit.ie if there's any queries that they have at any time. But before I finish up, Dan, if that's okay, because I know we're a bit cut for time, I just want to say a quick thing about the uncertainty at the moment for bookings that I'm sure parents are feeling and students are feeling, wondering what way it's going to be for September. The answer is at the moment we don't know. We're hoping we'll be back on campus. As I don't know whether students know at the moment that are on, that we've some students right now for a couple of days a week, or some people are working primarily from home. We'll know more after Christmas, so I suppose to keep in contact, communicate with us regularly, and as soon as I know, I'll be able to let you know. The bookings will still be taken for the apartments. There is a certain portion for a booking fee, and a certain portion is refundable, so you lose a very, very small amount, and you don't have to confirm this until late in the summer. So if you feel you'd like it, book it, have something reserved.
Very good, Deirdre, and thank you very much. And as you say, if there's any query to anybody who's tuned in this evening, accommodation@cit.ie. Deirdre, thank you very much. And actually, there's still quite a vibrant community actually on campus today. I noticed quite a number of our students are still there engaging in online learning, but also on campus learning. So thank you very much, Deirdre. And I'm now joined in studio by Aoife Kelleher. Aoife is our Societies Officer at CIT. And Aoife runs a very vibrant and a very active societies community. And there's great amount for people to get involved in. So Aoife, you're very, very welcome. Good to see you this evening. Maybe just very quickly, if you want to tell us a little bit, what are societies? What do societies do?
Sure. So I'm here to talk to you about the fun side of CIT. The lighter
Well, it's all
side,
fun side.
It is all fun side, exactly. But I guess with societies, it's extracurricular, so it's outside the academics. And while we would recognise that the main focus of students is about their study and their course that they're involved in CIT, I think through societies is a huge opportunity to develop themselves as a person, find out some new interests, and make friends, which is very important as well.
Very good, and that's well done. And actually, somebody actually tweeted earlier on and said, what are the best societies to join? Now, I don't know if that's an unfair question, Aoife, but what are the best societies to join? Be careful now, because students may be tuned in.
Societies for me, they're all like each children, so I'm afraid I can't pick one in particular. That's my favourite. But I think for this year, it's like the best societies, I suppose, are the ones that it depends on your own interests is most important.
Yeah.
So there are a number of different groupings of societies. There's community-based societies that would be involved in culture, that would be involved in different beliefs. So, for example, we've got the Indian Society, the Korean Society, the International Student Society, and they celebrate the cultures and the diversity of the students that are involved in CIT. And it's a great way for students to meet one another that have the similar interests. So, for example, the interest-based societies, they might be interested in photography, there's some gaming that you'd be involved in. And there's also the performance and the music societies. So they would do plays for like a musical society that has been put on some fantastic shows in CIT over the past number of years. We have a vibrant traditional society, a trad society, a dance society that competed into varsities. So it really depends on your own interest, and the good thing about it is not an awful lot of experience is required. I think moving into college, it's an exciting time.
Sure.
It can be daunting, of course, because you might be leaving friends behind, but it's really heartwarming to know that coming into CIT, there are lots of new people and new friends waiting for you that want you to get involved in their society.
Very good. Aoife is forever the diplomat. She covered all the societies I think we have at CIT there. So I hope that answers the question for somebody this evening. And can I ask you that another person this evening has tweeted that if they had an idea to set up a society, is it possible to set up a new society if they have an idea?
Absolutely. I mean, student societies are student-run, so it really is the students that decide what a society is about. And if there are enough students that are interested in a particular topic, then we have to facilitate and support that. I suppose that's my role in all this, making sure that they have the finance, that we subsidise, that we make things as free as possible for students to get involved in. I mean, we are open to all ideas. So there's a new society proposal. So if you come to CIT, I'd encourage every first year to get involved in at least one society. Try something out, see if you can challenge yourself, I suppose, and try something new would be kind of one of the key messages that we'd like for students to get across. But if there is something that you get involved in and you say, I'd really like to see something happening in CIT or that would bring something to it, societies really is the place for that. And we've seen over the years that student societies and colleges provide the platforms for cultural changes. So some things that we see happening in colleges, actually what you might see happening in the broader society in Ireland in a couple of number of years after. So supporting students that have what some might think are diverse ideas or crazy ideas, we're delighted to do that as well. Yeah,
no, I must say, and I know it's slightly different this year, but when I go home there, or going home in the evening, sometimes I go through the student centre, and to see maybe 10, 12, 15 different societies having different events is fantastic to see that. So my final question this evening, actually, before we move on to our final speaker, Aoife, is why should students get involved in societies? So if somebody's tuned in this evening, why should I get involved in the society? Sell it to me.
Absolutely. I think the people going into college, they're looking for a new experience. It's a time when you come into your own independence, when you can make your own choices and you can decide what you want to be involved in. There isn't as much direction perhaps anymore from being involved in different things. So I think this is a choice for a student to really make their own choices in what they want to be about. Whether it's something that you're extremely passionate about, that you want to advocate for. We have a number of societies. The LGBT Society in CIT has been advocating for inclusion and equality in CIT for the past number of years to great success. And they've brought projects into secondary schools as well. So I think it's really about finding out what you're passionate about. And sometimes you need to try things out to see that. And I think being involved in a society in college certainly is the place to do that.
And
I want to also then just about the clubs that we have in CIT, which has been very strong as well. So they will be my colleagues that I've been working with in the Sports and Societies office in the Student Centre. And there's a huge diversity of a range of clubs that have also run in CIT. So there are fantastic facilities that have been created over a number of years and support staff. And there are team sports there, there are individual sports there. And it's a great opportunity as well. Of course, they've been big supporters of scholarships over the last number of years. So perhaps there might be students that are interested in sports, out of elite sports, that are wondering if CIT is supportive, and absolutely as well. So every year we look for students to sign up to clubs and societies. It's a chance for tryout for new sports also as well, so to keep that in mind. And they can find out more information on our Instagrams and on our Facebooks then. That'll be the most up-to-date information.
That's great, Eva. Thank you very much. And as you say, we have a variety of sports as well, and thank you for mentioning them. And of course, we're in the final stages of building our new CIT arena, and that'll be our first MTU building officially open on campus, hopefully next September, just in time. When you join us on campus next September, we'll have our new sports arena, state-of-the-art, downstairs and upstairs, state-of-the-art gym. Eva, just to say thank you very much, because I think for students, I think it's fantastic to see them involved in sports and societies. And I think you make friends, and you make friends that you'll hold on to for the rest of your life. So thank you very much, Eva. And we're down now to our final my colleague this evening. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce the current president of our Students' Union, Aisling O'Mahony. Aisling is a graduate of the Department of Marketing and International Business, and she leads a team of 8 to a student population of about 10,000. So you're the final speaker this evening, Aisling. So the Students' Union, could you just tell us a little bit about the Students' Union on the campus of CIT, the future MTU?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I have to correct you on that one, because we're definitely 12,000 students.
Oh, sorry.
That we're representing. You're fine. So I suppose you have a complete student perspective here. I studied in international business in CIT for 4 years. I moved up in first year, probably the most exciting time of my life. Never looked back since. I'm still there. So basically, I would say from a student perspective, CIT is probably the most homely, heartwarming community that you could ever be welcomed into. So basically, what I would like to say is that the Students' Union aren't just the organisers of your crazy rag and Freshers Week. It's our role to, I suppose, fully and actively represent every single student that walks in the door of CIT. I like to say we want to ensure that you're getting bang for your buck, basically. So we're acting as your voice on all of the decision-making boards within the Institute. Personally, I sit on 42 committees in the college. It's quite a lot of committees, but I'm at every one of them to make sure that the student voice is, I suppose, the main driver in all of the decisions made in the college. We're continuously working to improve and enhance the student experience alongside many others here in the student services. We represent students on all matters that affect their day-to-day student life, whether it's internal or external, local or national. So the internal might be keeping the price of a coffee on campus low, and the external might be maybe working to lobby the government to tackle the current accommodation crisis. So our union is made up of myself as the president. I'm assisted by a vice president education and vice president welfare. We've got a great communications officer, entertainment officer, projects officer, and we're facilitated by fabulous full-time staff. So we also represent our students on a local level, but also nationally with the Union of Students in Ireland, which is made up of 374,000 students. So it's our aim there to lobby the government to, I suppose, invest in higher education. My own role, I suppose, as president includes main representation, press and media. Press and media hate Christmas Day, CIT, or no, Cork Students' Christmas Day, but I'm also the chief spokesperson. We run various campaigns throughout the year. The Students' Union also run a stationery shop that sells, stationery and lab coats and goggles at cost price. We run leap cards and a grants management system. Anything to support the students, you can be sure that we have a say in. We run many wellbeing campaigns, including Sexual Health Guidance Week, Positive Mind and Body, which just ran last week. It was a great success. And I suppose just to put into perspective a bit about what we do and the outcomes of what we do. So the team last year, we lobbied management and staff for a number of different things to help improve the student life. And I'd like to say we have a fantastic relationship with staff and management. Everyone just wants the best for all students. It's really student-centric college. I will have to say that hands down. If I go back again and do out my CAO, I would still be putting CIT as number one. Coming into MTU, there's so much more opportunity as well. But some of the things that we did last year was the abolishment of the January exams, because no student likes the exams in January. We updated and refurbished the common room with the Student Finance Committee, extended library opening hours. We kept the prices down in the shops and the canteen. I suppose we pushed for investment into the gym facilities, and there was extra funding allocated to our mental health resources. And then I suppose this was a big one as well for students, where we got 500 emails to move exams on race day. So that was a big success. So all of these items were helped by our class reps. So every year we recruit and train over 300 class reps. So every single class in CIT should have a class representative. It just makes sure that there's a good communication between the staff and the students. And then I suppose we get fed information from our class reps, and we bring that to management and all of these boards and committees then on how to make the student experience the best it can be. I would say it's a great way to become engulfed in college life. I won't keep you too long now, but I suppose we're a union of 12,000 students, and looking back on my time in CIT, I can wholeheartedly say that my time as a CIT student coming into MTU, it was the best 4 years of my life. The CIT staff are extremely accommodating, and the lecturers know you by name, which is quite rare. There's no daunting, massive lecture halls where nobody knows anyone and nobody speaks to anyone. It's very much so community, and that's what CIT is grounded on, and I'm sure it'll be the same for MTU. So from the moment you walk through the doors in CIT, I would say that you're met with a homely community who will stop at nothing to ensure that you reach your full potential as a student, whether that be academically or personally. So that's it for me. I just want to ensure that, I just want to make sure that you have a good, I suppose, oversight on CIT, and this is coming from an honest student. I did the work and I partied just as hard, but we all got there in the end, and CIT, I wouldn't change it for the world. Coming into MTU, it has even bigger opportunities, I think, for students. So that's it for me then.
Aisling, thank you very, very much, Aisling. Really appreciate that. I think you ticked all the boxes there, but as you say yourself, while you're looking at the fun side of life, you also addressed a very serious element of the student journey as well, the mental health initiatives, etc. But I think you hit it beautifully there, that it is a welcoming atmosphere. It's a college where people feel at home, and we try to make everybody feel at home. So, Aisling, I think that was a lovely way to finish our presentation this evening, and thank you very, very much. So just before we finish this evening, I'd like to thank all of my colleagues who joined us this evening and who shared their experience, answered the questions, and just to say to you that if you do consider and you do become a student of the Munster Technological University, we will welcome you, we will look after you, and we would value your input as a student and a future ambassador for the college, and indeed as an alumnus for the college itself. So in conclusion, again, I'd like to say thank you sincerely for joining us this evening. There will be a total of 22 events running over the next 2 weeks. So could I invite you please to check out www.cit.ie/CAO for the full schedule. And please feel free to email all of us or my colleagues at cao@cit.ie, and we'll be very happy to assist you. Our next session is from tomorrow evening from 5 p.m, so you make sure that you join us. So for now, thank you, and I wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you and goodbye.